Well, good afternoon. Welcome to New Testament, or the introduction to the New Testament. My name is Rob Music, University Chaplain, also professor or instructor of religion, and I am really looking forward to being with you throughout the semester, minus the fact that I'm gone this week. So if you're in my Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, some differences will be this week. On Wednesday, we have a guest lecturer coming in, and on Friday, we will not have class as you have an internet assignment which is on your syllabus. And I hope that you've already gotten on Joel and you've checked that out. Now, if you're in my Tuesday, Thursday course, take heart. You do have class on Thursday as you have a guest lecturer. So, again, welcome. I know that many of you are probably here because it's a introduction class, yet I think that this is going to be a great time. I think this is going to be a great time for you and for me as we get to know more about the New Testament. Now, Coach Gary, or Professor Gary, has for you, he's passed out the syllabus, and this is going to be kind of a key to your journey. Make sure that you look through this syllabus, and actually at the end of class, I'm going to ask you to rip off the back page, to read through the agreement, and to sign the syllabus. And what that means is that you are agreeing that you have read it and that you understand the requirements. So at the end of the semester, when you get an A, we can all say, hey, you did everything that I asked you to do. Also, it's a way for me to know that you were in class today. So in saying that, let me quickly give you a little background about who I am. I've been at the university now about a year, function in teaching New Testament, or the introduction of New Testament, teach freshman studies, and also I'm the campus chaplain. So you'll see me in a host of different activities and events, and I'm married, been married for 12 years now. I have 2 children and 1 on the way, so this semester around March, right before spring break, I may miss a day or so because I'll be bringing in a new child, which I'm really excited about. And my job on campus is to be a safe place for you. Oftentimes we think about religious persons, and clergy especially, or pastors, and we think about them having judgment or expectations or standards for you. That's not who I am. At the university level, my office is a safe place for you to come, to be heard, to have a person listen to you. If you're seeking spiritual guidance, you would come to my office. Also, that doesn't mean just if you're a Christian. All different faiths or non-faiths are welcome in my office as we journey finding out what's best for you. Now also, I do need to let you know that we have all kinds of spiritual activities on campus. We have chapel every Tuesday at 11. Sunday evenings we have an event called 737, which meets at Booth. It happens to meet at, well, 737. Also, throughout the week we have Life Tree Cafe, which is an hour-long conversation about a specific topic, which meets on Tuesdays at 7 o'clock. Mondays and Thursday nights in the chapel at 8:30 we have a Bible study group called Bug. We have Sunday morning worship in Chrisman Auditorium at 11 o'clock, Grace Fellowship. On Wednesdays at 3 o'clock we have Roman Catholic Mass in the chapel. At Mondays at 4 o'clock in Booth we offer yoga. So these are some of the activities that are here for you. Thursdays at 11 o'clock in the chapel, we have Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And on Fridays at noon in the chapel, we have Baptist Campus Ministry. So hopefully you'll be able to come out to one of those and maybe even make up an attendance grade if necessary down the road. Saying that, I want you to realize that I am firmly convinced that religious studies, specifically studying the Bible as a sacred text, not only is a spiritual act, but as we work hard, as we study hard, as we read and do our assignments, I believe that's an act of worship. That's just like prayer when we're following what God has called us to do. So I hope that even though our class is large, almost every seat's filled in our class, that you will see it as a class where you can participate, dialogue, because the real learning happens when both you and I together in the class are dialoguing. Now don't worry, I can lecture the whole time. I'm good at that. But yet when you ask questions, have read the material, and are engaging it, something spectacular can happen. And really, I hope and pray that this may be the only time that you have in your life where you intentionally take time to study the New Testament. Now, whether you're a believer in it or not, that's your personal faith. This class is not about making you believe what I believe or making you come to some kind of faith conclusion. That's between you and God. Our class is seeking to simply understand, what does the New Testament actually say? Who is this person Jesus? Who is this person Paul? What is Revelation about? Trying to push away all the myths that we hear, or certain people said, but you know the Bible says, and move to, what does God say? What does the New Testament, what do the authors say to us? So that's way of introduction, and let's really kind of move into finding out more about the class and what's expected of you. First thing is this, kind of at the top of the syllabus will tell you when we meet and where we meet. It gives you all my information. I pride myself on being one of the most accessible profs you're going to have on campus. I keep office hours every day between 8:30 to 5:30. If I'm not in class or in chapel, I'm going to be in my office. You can email me, you can call me. I've left my personal cell phone number on there also. But if there's really something burning on your mind, the best way is to email me and say, hey, I need you to carve out this time for me, and I'll be happy to do it. We do have one required text. That's the Greco-Roman World of the New Testament Era, which is a small paperback that you'll be asked to do a book review on later in the semester. That's really concentrated. You'll be using that in the first part of the semester, kind of providing all the background for us. And later, then we'll be doing a lot of work in the New Testament. So that book's not required to bring to class, but your Bible is required to bring to each class, which leads me to the fact that the Bible is an optional text. As long as you have a copy of the New Testament, whether it's on your phone, your iPad, or in your hand, that you can bring to class every day, the version of the Bible doesn't matter, with the exception. You cannot use the King James in this class. And some people get all bothered by that, but the King James is an old translation. Last time it's been updated was 1722. So in saying that, we want something modern, something to push you, challenge you to think about it a little bit. So, and the recommended text is the New Revised Standard Version, and you can find it in the bookstore, because if you take Old Testament or another Bible class, you're going to need that text, so why not buy it now? And you can also probably buy it free or buy it real cheap from maybe a friend or somebody that's had a previous class in religion. Now, this class is very heavy on reading and writing. In my course, there are no exams. So you'll become real familiar with Joel, your daily writings, and your course readings. I promise you, if you show up to class, you read the material, and you do the writings, you will pass my class. And most likely, you will get an A. Now, let's talk about a couple other things, kind of what we'll be doing in this class. This class is an overview of the history, the politics, the religious setting of the writers and the actors or the characters of the New Testament. We're talking about a short period of history, really, from about the life of Jesus, which is roughly around 30 or so CE, to 95 or 100 CE, so really about 70 years is what we're talking about. And we'll be looking at Roman occupation, Greek thought, the influence of Judaism, and how this plays out in key figures like Jesus, Paul, Peter, James, and the host of other New Testament characters of these 27 sacred texts that some will say is the Word of God, and others will say, well, just another piece of ancient literature. Now, in saying that, all your materials are available on Joule. Every PowerPoint that will be given, every assignment, everything's on Joule already. So you can go and work hard if you want, but also everything has to be submitted on Joule. I will not receive anything that's turned in by paper, So please don't come in and turn something into me, because let's face it, I have 100 students and we have a lot of writing. I don't want to lose something that you might have done. So if you turn it in, by Joule, we both have a written record. So know your password. If you're not familiar with Joule, you need to see me or somebody surrounding you ASAP. Now, let's talk about grades. Typical 90 to 100's an A. This coursework is not a matter of what you tell me about your faith, okay? Because you gave your heart to Jesus does not mean you're going to get an A. Or just because you believe Jesus never existed and doesn't matter doesn't mean you're going to get an F. I'm not going to grade you on your faith. What you'll be graded on is, have you completed the work? Are you answering the questions? Are you engaging with thought? If you've talked to other students of mine, you'll find out that there are students with all kinds of different faith perspectives who have done really well in my course. So I want you to be honest, to truly engage it. Now, if you blow it off or you give me some kind of Sunday school answer, you probably won't do well. This class is meant to challenge you and to push you. Now, this class also is for you to understand what's going on in the New Testament, beyond what you may have heard. And I'm asking you to, as the learning outcomes have said, I'm asking you to develop a personal approach to understanding the New Testament. But also I'm asking you to think critically, to think seriously about the text and how the New Testament came to be formed, because it just didn't drop out of the sky. And then finally, a real big part of the class is for you to learn how to articulate, to explain your thought. Just because you believe it doesn't mean it's true. You have to explain yourself. And that will really what's going to set you apart from the other graduates, those Moorhead grads or Georgetown grads. It's going to get you the job first. Now let's talk about course requirements, because that's really what you're seeking. What do I have to do to get an A? Well, let's go there, right? 6 items grading will be based on your writing assignments, a project which centers around compassion, the Canon project, a book review, and your attendance. Okay, so let's talk about attendance, because that's a big one. You'll notice my attendance policy is fairly strict. In our Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, you can miss 7 classes. Beyond that, you fail. I have no such thing as an excused absence. Whether it's for baseball, your child's sickness, you got snowed in, you're not here. But you get 7. Now, if you want full credit, you'll miss 3 classes or less. If you miss 4, 5, or 6, you get half the attendance points. Beyond 7, you fail. Now, it's a little different for my Tuesday, Thursday course, because you can only miss 5 classes, and after 5, you fail. It says, it says this here in the syllabus, so make sure that you understand. And now, when we talk about our final project, because there's no final exam, but during the final, you are to be present. If you are not present at the final, you will fail. Now, let's talk about the biggest parts of the class. The first one is daily writing assignments. Once we get into the Bible, you'll be asked to reflect on the reading and then to daily write 1 page, double-spaced, which you write more on Facebook every day than what I'm asking you to do. And you'll be answering specific questions. Now, I do have very specific requirements. It must be a full page. It must be double-spaced, 12 font, New Times Roman, 1-inch margins. And if you use a source, which is great, you find a website that's helpful, that's fine. But you must cite it. If you do not cite something, and I find it on the internet or in a book, that's called plagiarism, and you fail. You'll hear more about that on Wednesday and on Thursday of this coming week. So, what am I looking for in the daily writings? Let's talk about that, because this is 30% of your grade. Now, I do want to remind you, don't fall asleep when it comes to daily writings. Keep up with them, because they're due the day of the class. Now, let's talk about the writings. This is the purpose of this is that you're reading, you're thinking about it, so when you come to class, you're already starting to think about the topic so that you can engage in class with the topic and the discussion that I've asked you. Now, all of these assignments are worth 10 points each, so 30 writings, 300 points, right? And I'm not asking you, for example, if I ask you about the parable of the Good Samaritan, I don't want you to give me an overview of what the parable is. What I'm going to ask you in that question is, how can you be a good Samaritan? And what does this story mean to the original hearers? What's shocking about it? That's what I want you to answer in the question. Don't give me 3/4 of a page about what the story is. I know that. What I want is for you to show me that you're thinking about it. That's really important, for you to show me that you've read and you're thinking. If you do that, you'll get a 10 every time. This is an easy 300 points. 130 your grade. It's much better than taking some big, huge exam. Now, in saying that, also, let me backtrack, just so you know about attendance. There are ways to make up if you miss. For example, if you get sick for a week and you're all freaking out about your attendance, you can come to chapel. Chapel's a half hour. That's a half a class. Come to 7:37, which lasts an hour, and that's one full class. Now, if you come to those and you're making up attendance, you need to see me at the event. You need to say, hey, I'm in your Tuesday, Thursday class. I'm here to make up, write my name down. Because if you tell me after the fact, you won't get credit. Because I don't know. There's a lot of people at those events, and I don't know who's who and who's what. You got to come see me. Now, in saying that, you'll notice as you look over the list of the assignments here, you'll notice that it should give you what your first assignment is. And that's, I want you to put your face, your picture of your face, on Jewel. We have 50 students in our class. It's very easy for me to start remembering who you are, looking at your face, and knowing more about you. Also then, you'll notice, for example, in the first part of February, when your writing assignments start, it will tell you what the writing topic is. This should match what's on Jewel, and you'll submit that all via Jewel, because again, I will not be accepting anything handed in. Now, also for your syllabus, it should be pretty easy to understand, but on the right side is what I'm asking you to read. So, but the next time you come to class, you have a couple chapters in your required text that I want you to have read. Now, because I'm not there, you can blow this off, I realize. But don't worry, you do have a book review that's due on this book. So I've given you a helpful way to break it up, to kind of catch your breath in the midst of this. So that's kind of the first part of the assignments. Now, let's move forward and let's talk about what's required in relationships to some of the other big projects, okay? Now, let's talk about your, well, before we do all that, let me talk about my commitment to you. I want to make a covenant with you. It's an agreement. I'm going to do everything in my class to help you succeed. If everyone gets an A in my class, I don't consider that a failure. I seek not to fail anyone. I don't need to boost my ego to see some of you squirm and suffer. My class should be a class of grace, of compassion. Now, I want to see you completely engage the text. And I want to do this in a creative, fun, exciting way, as much as we can for a college lecture. And my encouragement is, do not be afraid. We hear it over 300 times in the New Testament. Don't be afraid. I really want to work to your good, to your benefit, to your success. Now, my invitation is this. I want you to be hungry to learn. Suspend judgments, suspend expectations, and come open. Read. Think. Don't be worried about failure, because if you do your assignments, you will pass. Just come with an open mind, willing to grapple, and especially if you've grown up in church. I ask you to suspend a lot of what you've heard and to really think with new eyes, maybe some things you've never heard about, maybe some things that will really cause you to think that I'm crazy or I'm a heretic or that you'll be questioning my faith. push all that away for a while, and let's, as friends, walk through hearing the original message of Jesus and his followers anew. So again, that's my commitment to you and also my invitation to you. Let's make a covenant, okay? Now, as we work through the assignments, what you're going to notice is that in the syllabus, I have given you on page 5 a list of online resources, which are really helpful. These are great for if you're trying to figure out what to write about. These are incredible resources to look through and to use. Again, check out all the links on Joel. In saying that also, let's talk about your first assignment. Your first assignment is called a book review. It's on our required text, and it must be 3 full pages. Now, if you give me 2 or 1, do not expect to pass. I'm asking for 3 full pages, and I've told you what to do. What I'm asking you to do is not to simply tell me about the book, because, well, I've read it. But what I'm asking you to do is to very quickly highlight what the book is about, and then I want you to kind of critically rip it open. What did you like? What pushed you? What didn't push you? What caused you to want to know more? Critically kind of reviewing the text. So actually, what I expect is when you're reading the materials, okay, as we look at the book here, I expect you to take this text, and I expect you to really, read it and to write in it and highlight it and ask some questions, because that really does the work for you. After you've read the text, you can simply just flip through and say, oh yeah, that was important. This wasn't important. Oh yeah. And it quickly makes your book review very easy. And you'll find you have a ton more to write about, and you don't have to freak out about 3 pages. Now in my class, one thing that you'll realize is that you can always write over the amount. Don't ever worry about being penalized for going over, but you will be penalized for going under, because I expect when you graduate from here to be articulate people who are community leaders, and not just simply with a resume. Everyone can put stuff on a sheet, but I really want you to be able to articulate and express what makes your thought critical, real, and worthwhile. So in saying that, I've given you on page 7 an outline of what I expect of a book review, what should be done, and if you have any questions as you move forward with it, I do ask for all of your assignments, especially the book review. I want you to think about me reading 100 students' papers. Proofread. There's something called spell check for a reason. So do it, or you'll be penalized, okay? I'm not a grammar cop, but if you can't complete a sentence, you will be docked. So this book review, you're going to find is going to be due right as the daily writings start. Your book review will be over, so and finished and expected to be turned in, so that you can start moving towards reading the New Testament text and doing your book reviews. Now, saying that, I wished I could ask for some questions, but if things are coming to your mind, I would say circle them, write them down, and email them. Because even though I'm in class right now in Ohio, I will be looking at my email, and I'll be willing to answer whatever questions you may have. I don't want you to leave this class today and freak out thinking it'll be a whole week before we get back and before you'll see me. Email them. I'll get to them. I'll stay up all night if I need to make sure your questions are answered. You'll also notice in class that I love Diet Mountain Dew. So if you want to make Professor happy, you know what to bring. Just kidding. Now, in saying that, a second large project that we have is something called creating your own canon. Now, this is not a new concealed carry issue where you bring in your own canon and somebody brings in a battle axe. No, canon is this concept in the New Testament that it's a measuring stick. The early church believed that the New Testament documents, the 27 texts that we will read and think about, is their rule of faith. They called it the canon. It's what's acceptable and not acceptable. So what we're going to find out in the class is there was a ton of debate and discussion about which books should get in and what should not. So now you could go on History Channel or Discovery Channel and you can find out all kinds of different materials and letters, gospels that didn't make it. And we're going to kind of discuss why that is, why some got in and why some didn't. And we're going to find out that it took nearly 400 years for the church to decide which letters should be in, which letters should be out. And there was a lot of forming and making and putting together. So this kind of idea of creating a canon is what I'm asking you to do. Typically, most students do this by PowerPoint. They put it together. I'm not asking you to present it to your class, but I'm asking you to put it in some kind of format that I can read it. And what you're going to do is that you'll be looking at different criteria, right? So the first thing you have to do is that you have to tell me why you include certain books and not certain others, okay? And you'll notice that in the resources I have given you, it shows you all the early documents. So don't worry about trying to figure out which text you should be looking at. I've given you that list. So that's the first criteria. The second criteria is I'm asking you to pick between 15 different texts, okay? And I'll kind of explain that a little bit here. And what I want you to do with each of the text or the letters that you choose, I want a brief discussion of why. Also then, I want you to give me a detailed discussion of why in the end, after you've figured out which letters you want, why you've put them together the way you have. Because we'll find out in the New Testament, it's not like Matthew was the first book written. It's actually, James most likely was the first text written, and we find out that the New Testament compilers, not the writers, but those who finally put it together, put the texts in order based on theology, what they understood about God, what they understood about the church, what they wanted other people to understand. So it's a controlled document. There was an intention about why they put it together the way they did. And I'm asking you to do that with the canon that you have or will be creating. Put it together. Kind of let everything go and don't allow boundaries. Don't worry about certain situations. Just go for it and put them together like you want. Now, and also in saying that, I want you to maybe express in creating your canon what this says about your own personal theology, your own understanding of God. Okay? And then finally, the last thing, which kind of makes the project unique, is that I'm asking you to put one contemporary thing in the text or in this canon. For some, that was a poem. For some, they put a YouTube video. Some put a song in. Some put a movie, a specific clip of a movie. Whatever it is that you think people should see, experience when it comes to formation of God and community, we want this to be included in your text or in your canon. So below, you'll notice that I have given you list 1 and list 2. Requirements that you must choose within these two lists. And then finally, and don't forget, make sure you use that one contemporary experience. The best way to do this typically is through PowerPoint. You can do it through a video if you want. You can make your own YouTube video explaining this to me, which would be fantastic. You can write a paper. You can, if you want, write a paper about it. Or you can think of some other creative way that if it's beyond the paper or the YouTube video or the PowerPoint, come see me. Let's talk about how creative you can be. If you're an artist, maybe you want to draw some things, make some big cardboard, whatever. Let's talk about it. So that is your daily writings, 30%, okay, which is a significant 1/3 of your grade. Also then, with this Canon project, which is 25%, we're over 50% of the class already. And we've talked about your book review, which is a small part, 10% of your grade. We've talked about attendance, which is 5%. We're down now to the final issue, something that will be due the final class period, and it's called the Compassion Project. Now, as we back up, let me tell you when your canon project is due? It's due the day before spring break. Okay, so by the time you leave for spring break, you'll have completed a lot of your daily writings, your book review, your canon project. Because what I'm trying to set up is the fact that typically when we come back from spring break, very little class left, you're kind of running out of energy, you're pushing toward the summer break, and we really want to make this class front-loaded as opposed to back-loaded. So you really have a strong hold of where your grade is, and you can kind of get ready to really look forward to the summer. Now, in saying that, let's talk about the last 30% of your grade, which is the Compassion Project, which is pretty unique for our class because it's experiential. It's not academic in the fact that you'll be producing some kind of exam. There is a paper of reflection, but it's based on what you did. Now, because I am convinced the message of Jesus is loving God and loving people. Specifically loving people and doing good to people who are out the bounds, poor, destitute, broken, forgotten, oppressed. Jesus said, I am found in the midst or in those persons. And Jesus' life is about love, compassion. So I'm inviting you throughout the semester to volunteer 6 hours. You cannot get paid for this, and this cannot be a project that's towards your family or going to rake your grandma's grass, but it's an act of compassion where you must find an organization that you're going to work with, get my approval, perform the hours of volunteer, and then you'll document this, whether by video or pictures, and you then will write a 3-page reflection telling me what you did and why in the world this act of compassion or volunteer service is connected to the New Testament. For example, had some students last semester who went to the animal shelter and they donated some time. Now, how could working at the animal shelter be connected to the New Testament compassion? Because there's no Bible verse where Jesus says, love your pets and make sure you spay and neuter them. It doesn't say that. But what my students articulated was, Jesus gives voice to the voiceless. Those who have been forgotten, Jesus reaches out and touches. The gift of love, mercy, and grace. Because Jesus created everything. We find out in Colossians that everything has been created through Him and by Him and for Him. And so that's the case. Creation is part of God. It's a gift of God. And we then honor that by caring for our animals. So that's an example. So, but some of you might say, I'm not from around here. How will I know what to volunteer? Or, oh my goodness, one more thing he's asking me to do when I'm already so busy. I promise you that a final would take you a whole lot longer than 6 hours to study for if you were hoping to do well. This project will be fun. You can do it in a group if you want. If some of you are on a team or whatever, a fraternity, and you want to do this together, you can. As long as you are making sure that you personally are volunteering 6 hours and that you are personally writing a reflection, you can do it as a group. That's fine. But make sure with every project, whatever it is you're going to do, you have my approval first. Okay, so now within this, some of you might be saying, hey gosh, I don't know where to go. I don't know where to go first. I have put on Joule something called a Pike County Directory. It's a PDF file that has a list of all the social service agencies in the county. And you can go through that, numbers, addresses, that will give you everything that you need. And as we're thinking about it, maybe there's something, maybe you have a passion for helping those who suffer from domestic violence or homeless or hungry. Talk to me. I know a lot of resources, and if I don't, I know people who do, that we can link you up with. Okay? I know it may sound like a lot right now, but my goal in my theory of education is this. Those who work hard daily will be more rewarded than those who try to cram at the end. I do not believe that a test or an exam is the best way to show what's really up here or what's in here. But daily, you faithfully showing up, engaging, and working will get you very, very far in the class. Now, you do have an extra credit project. Now, if some of you are tanking my class halfway through and you realize you need to do something rapidly to make up for it, this is where the extra credit project will come in. At the back of the syllabus, it kind of talks about an extra credit group video project. And I've given you a whole page of discussion about that you can read over and look at. If you have questions about that, come see me. I'm not going to waste your time now talking about it. But look it over, and if that's something that you're interested in down the road, I can show you some examples and help you out. I'm just trying to give you as many opportunities as possible to do well in my class, because I really want you to get an A. And this could be a class that can be life-changing, but can also really be beneficial for your character. Because one of the questions we ask is, why study religion? Why does it matter? Well, a couple of reasons. The Bible is the greatest selling book of all time. And if you're an American and you travel overseas, for example, when I lived in South India, whether you're a Christian or not, because you come from America, people from other countries believe that you are, or that at least that you can articulate that. And if that's the case, I want you to be able to engage, to be able to understand. Now, that may not be your faith, but at least that you can critically become aware. Because what we're going to find out is that there is so much that goes on in modern America and around the world that is motivated by religion. 9/11, religion. Also politics, but a lot of religion. The reward of eternal life. When groups like Westworld Baptist Church protest at children's funerals, they do it because they believe they have read the New Testament. I would challenge that. But also, when it comes to the end of the world prophecies and people trying to freak you out using Revelation, it comes from their reading of the text. And I'll invite you to say, now wait a minute. Let's read this for really what it is. What did the author intend? You'll hear that a lot in the class. I'm going to ask you and ask you and ask you, what is the context? And what I mean is, what's going on politically? What's going on socially? What's going on economically, historically, in the lives of the hearers and the writers, that then really kind of shapes the text. Again, another example is the parable.